We'll see how it works. I'm interested to see how it works.
Yeah, it's great. I have a thing on my dash here for my phone, and I do a lot of conference calls and Zoom calls while I'm driving because I'm always driving. And yeah, so it's fun. So I figured with the start of the day being a little hectic and with our topics we're going to talk about today, I thought that it would be fun to do this.
So you must have really good internet.
I guess so, because it's great. I can hear you fine, and you look great as always. So I think it's fine.
Right on. Well, we're talking
Yeah.
about marketing. Where are you going today?
So I figured, and actually, after I was talking to you and we said we were going to discuss marketing today, I figured it was going to be a super cool thing to talk about today because I'm actually on my way to do do another branding photo shoot. So every few months I do new pictures, obviously, for LinkedIn and for just professional photos. So I'm on my way there today, and that starts at 11:30, and that's why we needed to start our coffee a little bit earlier today.
That's exciting. Do you have all the shots that you're going to do mapped out?
So the photographer is absolutely wonderful, and she does. So you've seen all of my pictures, the lifestyle, professional pictures, and so she just kind of puts on music, puts me at a cute desk with some fun books and some fun pens and my laptop, and we just have a blast. And she just takes pictures of me in my element, so it's fun, and she's wonderful. So I'm very excited for another set of photos today.
So are you going to do some new poses?
Poses.
Well,
Yes.
well, I don't. I mean, if you don't do different poses, then you're just doing the same thing and what do we call it? Chronologically recording your age.
Yes. So yes, and to answer your question, yes, things are going to be different. So different color schemes, different outfits. The last one I did dresses. I had black dresses on. We're doing a pantsuit today. So different kind of vibe, different kind of powerful vibe going on. So it'll be lots of fun.
Sounds like a lot of power going to be thrown around in that photo shoot today.
And she's also a fellow entrepreneur. She does obviously photography. She has some other great little side hustles that she does. So she's also another female businesswoman, which is super awesome. Well, so how are you? Tell me about you. How's your week? How's the beginning of your week?
I'm tired this morning. I've done.
Are you drinking a tea right now?
No, I'm on a prolonged fast. But I've done 1,300 push-ups this month so far, and I think it's taking a toll. Maybe I don't know. I rode my bike a lot. I put out this wall, which I'm pretty excited.
The wall looks fabulous, by the way.
I think it was mentally taxing on me. It wasn't hard.
It looks great.
But sound is way better, I hope, than it was. It doesn't sound like I'm in an echo chamber in the studio.
You know what, though? I never picked up on an echo from you, even prior to the wall. So, but I think that helps with the great sound system you have in there.
Prior to the wall. Yes, but I also put some things on the ceiling. And I think today, the panels for this wall, I took a picture, a black and white picture of the beach and the cliffs and everything out front. So I had that put on a sound, well, it's a sound picture wall. So once we get this other wall covered, I think it's going to be really good. Oh, and then I have to paint. I've got to paint my whiteboard. I'm trying whiteboard paint. Have you ever done that?
No, I've done chalkboard paint, but not whiteboard paint.
Oh, how did the chalk? I was worried about the chalkboard because then it would put chalk all over the carpet.
It's awful.
It was awful?
Clean. They always look cloudy and dirty. Yeah, it was awful.
Well, I'm glad I didn't do that. I don't know. It's called, I don't have, it's sitting down here on the floor. It's called Easy Marker. So I did a bunch of research and it says that it's good. And I have this whole wall in front there. So that'll be exciting. I'm going to try to get that painted today. Apparently it has to dry for 5 days.
Oh, okay. Well, looks like you have a fun-filled weekend of projects ahead.
Well, I'm actually going to LA this weekend on top of it. So,
Oh, good for you.
well, I don't know. We'll see. Uh,
Is
drive.
this a business trip or a pleasure trip?
No, it's a business trip. Um,
They're always fun.
yeah. So I do that tomorrow morning. Today, I got to do a bunch of things, do that whiteboard, clean my car, ride my bike, do some work, and
Go to LA.
yeah, and then go to LA tomorrow morning. But we're going to talk about marketing today. And I was trying to figure out how we should divide up the conversation, but then it dawned on me that really most of your business, or the majority of it, is B to C, really. I was thinking that it was B to B because I don't know why, but homeowners who you clean houses are really consumers. So you do B to C, and then we can talk about B to B. But I thought that we should divide it up, and I have a B to C and a B to B business as well. So,
Yeah,
or
it works perfect.
segments. I don't know what you call it. Yeah, I do know what you call it. Segments of the market.
Yeah, and it actually works well with us. It's funny that you mentioned that because it dawned on me actually a couple days ago too, about that, because another colleague of ours, we were talking about doing consulting and stuff like that, and we mentioned the same thing, that we actually are B2C and B2B. So it's cool that it works for you guys too. So we could definitely talk maybe about the different and then see kind of what the difference is.
Yeah. So let's start with B2C and
Okay.
how you originally started marketing. And actually, I was also thinking about it. We were talking about how marketing changes, and I'm curious as we talk to discover if marketing really should change. And when I was working out yesterday, I was thinking, why would marketing change if it works as you grow? But we can talk about that. So, how did you get started? Because I remember you actually, not that you didn't have a plan, you had a plan to change, but
Didn't have a business plan.
didn't have a business plan necessarily. And you just started out doing guerrilla marketing, didn't you?
Yeah. So when we first started, like you said, there was no plan, nothing put in place for any kind of aspect of the business. So I was just kind of desperate. And I'm not sure if you recall where I grew up. It was a very remote area, very rural. There isn't many people or a city or anything like that around. So there was these big weekend homes. So one day I just made up these little flyers, 4x6 flyers on, I think at the time it was, Windows, Word, or whatever it was, and just printed them and delivered them around 3 back streets, or we call them blocks here. I don't know if you guys call them blocks, but they're country blocks. And I just put them in people's mailboxes, which was a huge risk, and something that I didn't know. And I think back now and I think, oh my God, imagine if I went to all these people's places now and put flyers in their mailboxes without them going through Canada Post or something. So pretty risky that I even did that. And within about 3 days, I had about 6 phone calls. And I remember this one lady, Brandon, she called and she said, oh, we're looking for a new cleaner. We would love to have you come in. So I went in and I looked at her house and I quoted it. And she looked at me, because I said to her, when do what kind of schedule are you looking for and stuff like that. And she says, well, we'll have to see if we even like you. And that was like the biggest kick in the butt to me ever, because I'm thinking, oh my God, like, what could I do that she possibly couldn't like me? So, there was that. And so, yeah, we just started with the few flyers. And shortly after, I got those first 5 or 6 clients, and within a few weeks, they had told their friends that, you need to hire this new cleaner in the area, and go from there with all of those. So we filled up pretty quick. And how I actually, I guess, filled my schedule. I broke it down into, and you're going to laugh at this, but it ties into everything. I broke it down into the money that I needed. So I knew that if I charged this much and did this many hours, this is how much I was going to make. And that's what I needed to get myself out of the position I was in. So I started putting down all the little blocks of the hours that I would be at each home, and I just built them and I made it work. And I look back and I'm thinking, damn, I was a little like hustler or a little upseller, because I remember, people would call and they'd say, we only want you for 2 hours every other week or every week. And I knew I needed a 3 or 4 hour block to make my goal. And I would say, oh, well, we could add this for this much extra, and then we can make sure that this, and this is done. And we got it. I filled those spots. So I kind of look back, and back then I'm thinking, oh, I'm a newbie at this, but it was natural. I was selling and upselling and to meet those goals and those blocks that I needed to fill. So that's how we started. And from there, on the B2C side,
So wait, what was on the flyer though? Like, what did you say? Hey, I can clean your house better than your current cleaner, or I'm cheaper, or I'm in debt, hire me. I mean, what did you say on there?
Again, it's funny that you say this, because there's this new series on Netflix that people have told me about, and I must have had already 6 people message me and go, did you write this story? And it's called Made, like MAID, and it's about this young woman who lives in this domestic violent home, and she leaves and becomes a housekeeper to provide for her and her daughter. So it was kind of funny, people are saying it, but I laugh at what you just said about the flyer, because on this flyer that she put out, she said professional cleaner, single mom, cheap, with her number. So I laughed when I saw that, because I thought, oh my God, if I had ever done that, like, there's no way I would have ever gotten any clients. But on my flyer, we actually, then my name was Domestic Diva. Now it's Domestic Divas Cleaning Co. Incorporated, obviously, but then it was just Domestic Diva. So we put that out, and on the flyer, I believe it was something along the lines of professional experienced cleaner, which I really wasn't. But that's saying fake it till you make it. And so I did that. And one thing that I did do from the get-go that, I think is super important for anybody that is trying to even start a startup, if they are listening about it, is get insurance, because I got insurance from the get-go and I struggled to even pay for it, but it was so worth it, because that was a big question that people asked, being an individual cleaner that wasn't a part of an organization. So I got the insurance. I put on there, insured, bonded, criminal record, passed, and all those things that people seem to care about, and then just my phone number, and it just grew quick. And from there, it was all word of mouth for a solid 2 years. It was like every phone call we got, it was, hey, such and such gave me your number, and all of that. And we never even had social media up until, I'm going to say 3 years ago, or 2.5 years ago.
So did you put an hourly rate on that flyer, or how did you do that? I mean, is that how you priced it originally? It sounds like with your sound blocks, with your blocks on blocking time. So
Yeah.
Did you say, hey, I'm going to charge $30 an hour, and that's how you priced it?
Yes. So, but back then it wasn't. It was $20 an hour cash. That was what we were charging, or what I was charging. And so that's what we did. But I never put it on the flyer, because I find, and I don't know if it's just me, or if, for me, I'd rather talk to people and get to know them, because this is the thing. If I put $20 an hour on that, people are already going to pre-budget based on that. But if I go there, wow them, upsell them all these things, then tell them the price, then they're going to go, okay, yeah, you're sold, right? But if they already have that present in their mind of, okay, we're just going to pay $60 for our 3-hour clean, they're not going to budge, right? So that was another thing. Again, I look back and I'm like, damn, I was actually not that bad at sales when I was just starting.
What were you upselling them? I mean, were you making this up? Like, hey, I clean the gutters, or I clean the, I mean, what is an upsell that you do when you're cleaning? I haven't been upsold, thank God. Although I think my yard guy upsells us, but I'm happy to pay him. Do you just
So
say, hey, I noticed that the garage is dirty. We should clean that too?
yeah, so like even now, Brandon, like our residential managers, like when they go into a home and look at some stuff, or we do a Zoom consultation with them and they say, okay, we're just looking for the basics, we're a busy family, we just want a weekly kind of once over, nothing super thorough, just to kind of keep on top of it. But then we could say, okay, well, listen, like the grout in your bathroom is absolutely awful, very stained, very mildewy. We can stay an extra hour and do that. So those were the things that I was doing. Like, oh, I noticed that your oven is super dirty. Do you want me to stay and clean it? Yes, that's great. It'll only be an extra $20. Cool. To me, that was a lot, right? So for me to get that and to block that, or to even include those things on a regular basis, is instead of going 3 hours a week to do a regular clean, I'm like, listen, if you want, I'll stay an extra hour each week and do those extra things that need to be done. The interior of the windows, the baseboards, the vent fans, things like that people just don't get to on a regular basis. So it was those little things that really did amp up the selling feature, because a lot of people would go, oh, I didn't even think of that. Sure, go ahead. And so that's where we would go on the upselling kind of thing.
Well, just out of curiosity, when you showed up to your first house to clean your first house, did you watch a YouTube video or something on how to clean houses? I mean, or did you just get some cleaning in a bucket and there's got to be like a process. The lady that cleans our house starts in a certain place every time. Then she works her way through, I don't know, she got this whole process. It's very clear to me, and it
Yeah.
gets very clean. Did you have that, or how did you even approach that? I'm just curious.
So I didn't. Going into my first house, no, I didn't have a process. I didn't really have something that I could say, this is how it's done. It was just, I knew how to clean. Growing up, my mom was an obsessive cleaner. Our house was always clean. I was always very clean. So I think I just, like, looking back, I think I just kind of gave it what I know, and I obviously did something right. So then I took all of those things over those few clients in those few months, and that's when I kind of made it like our foundational stuff. And now that's how we have our training program, how we do the mentorship with other small businesses and teach them how to do that. So now we have a process. But then, no, I didn't watch a YouTube video. I just kind of went in and did what I thought made sense to clean someone's house.
Well, it makes sense. It just goes to show you can make it up. I mean, I mean, so you do have a process now. Do you start like in the master bathroom and work your way out? Or, I mean, is it that, I'm just curious. I don't want to get off topic, but is it that detailed?
Yeah, it is. So in our system in Jobber, we have our different types of cleans listed down in checklists. Literally start here, move to here, go to here, use this, do this, use this tool. Like it is so thorough, so detailed. And so that's just for our like every day. And then on our Diva training program, that's a good solid training program that goes through all of these things, like what products to use, where to start in the home that makes sense, use gravity as your friend, don't vacuum the floors and then clean the counters, like it's all done in our training program.
Well, that makes sense. So going back, you get these flyers, you put them in mailboxes. Is it illegal to, maybe it is in the United States as well. I don't know. It's illegal to put things in mailboxes, I guess.
I think it goes under like I don't even know if it was illegal then or not legal, but there's some kind of law about it here. Same with like sending an email unsolicited and things like that. So it's all under those things that you can't just drop off advertising material if you haven't like approved it. There is a law, I don't know which one, or a bill or something like that. I'm not sure what it is, but it is something to that effect.
I got you. Okay. That's just for anyone listening. I think flyers are great. I mean, people get annoyed to put them on their window. We have people who they don't put flyers in our mailbox that I know about, but they do throw these notes tied to a rock into our.
What?
Yeah, they tie a rock and then they throw it out their window and then it lands in your driveway and it has a note or something attached to it that'll say, "We do leaf removal," or
Oh,
"We,"
that's funny.
or do something like that. Yeah. So that works. Obviously, it works for you. It got the pump going or prime the pump to get the word of mouth going. And then for 2 years, you said it was basically word of mouth. You have a web.
Yeah.
Did you have a website?
No, we didn't. And so for the longest time, I remember, and what sparked the next step in our marketing was on Facebook. So I personally was on Facebook. So at the time, obviously, it was just myself. I didn't plan on having this huge corporation or this mini business turn into this huge corporation. And so when I was on Facebook, people would then start tagging me as the cleaner, right? So people would put on Facebook, hey, looking for a new cleaner. People would tag my name. People click on my Facebook page. It doesn't look like I even know what I'm doing. There's no business name. There's nothing to do with being a cleaner. So I felt like that wasn't obviously very professional. And as we started growing with staffing and stuff like that, I figured that we needed to actually like amp this up a little. So we had no website, no social media up until I'm going to say like 2.5 years ago. And it was just word of mouth, phone calls, text messages. People would text and go, hey, you clean my neighbor's place. Can we have you come over and do ours? So like it grew very quickly in that regard. And then it hit me in regards to the Facebook page where, again, people were tagging my personal page. It made no sense. There was no business name, nothing on my page that even looked like I had a cleaning business. So I started the Facebook page. And that grew quite quickly. And then we then got into Instagram, and then a website was our last form of social media, or I guess marketing. And that was about 2 years ago. So yeah.
So it all really starts with the personal connection. I think that's the case in all companies, even big ones, right? It's all
Mm-hmm.
about the founder. And I guess it goes to show that you don't really need a website. Did people ask you like, "Hey, Danielle, where's your website?"
Yeah, they
Oh,
did. I think, and this is not an excuse by any means, but I think people were happy with the professionalism and the service that we were providing. Obviously, they were happy with it. But when it came down to the website and stuff, I think it was more so small town, small business, they're cleaning. It's, is it even a scalable business? Like that's the vibe I got from a lot of at the time, higher end clients is they were happy with the service. They were happy with us. They trusted us, but did they care that we were a huge franchise? No. So people would ask and I go, oh, we just haven't got there yet. And it was just, okay, it didn't really. Now I think it would be a huge problem if we were not to have a website, just for the sheer fact of how big we are, and the areas that we cover. If somebody 3 hours north says something, or a company down in Toronto is looking for us or has heard of to look on our website and there is nothing, I think that's a problem. Without that, I don't think, because it backs us up. So very important now for the size of what we have, but I don't think back then it mattered.
Yeah. Do you think it's funny that we all look back and we're like, oh, well, if you would have done that, if you do that now, it just wouldn't work.
Right?
I bet you it would work.
Oh, it would for sure. If somebody um, started and did everything that I did 5 years ago, on their own, they just had like a mop and bucket and some cleaning supplies and just did a flyer, it would totally work. But it's getting into that next step, right? And I said that to you when we first hit that. I paid off all of my debt from my ex, and we got to that point where we kind of had to make that decision. Are we going to keep going because we're going to have to make some changes, or are we going to like stop it completely, or are we just going to maintain what we have now? The few people that I had working with me, we all just made some money, and it was just going to be that way. But you know me, and I know myself, that I'm not one to just kind of let things just, coast. I'm a very like go get them kind of person. Their stuff, more professionalism, make sure that all these things are being followed and met, and we had those things in place, so when people did call us, they had something to look at.
So what do you guys do now for the B2C? Is it still word of mouth?
A lot of it is, and it's funny because like the connections that I do and that I have and that the people that I meet on a daily basis, let alone, whether it be friends, family, or even just other businesses or events with us, or recipient of some money that we've donated, or they're a part of a community that we serve or have been at. So word of mouth is still such a huge thing. Like, prime example, we have this one lovely woman that one of my area managers in Orangeville, her team member cleans for her. Now, Danielle, my other Danielle, who is my area manager for Orangeville, her mom works at a restaurant with one of our clients. And our clients told Danielle's mom, oh my goodness, we have the best cleaning company in the whole world that I have ever used in my whole life. And, my husband loves them and they're so great. And I guess Danielle's mom came back and told Danielle, and turns out it was us. We looked in the system and that was the client. So, it is funny how things like that come around. And even one of my girlfriends owns an amazing bar in Orangeville. And a few years ago, she actually, before we even knew each other, she called the company and got us to clean her house back then. So it's funny how things like that are full circle, connections and people. So a lot of it is still word of mouth. We get a lot of that. For our B2C, social media, like Instagram is a huge one, because we do residential and commercial campaigns on our pages. So some are for businesses, some are for the homeowner. So on social media, actually, for example, yesterday, Samantha did a great one-day mini contest on our social media for a Starbucks gift card. And so she put out to our homeowners, like, why do you need us? Why did you make the decision to hire us, or why do you need us in your life? Enter for a chance to win. So she did that, and some of the responses we got were absolutely hilarious. Some were very honest. It was a great little mini contest. I was loving watching them all day. And one of them reached out and said, I'm so overwhelmed with work. You guys would be a godsend. And we responded and said, listen, fill out this link. We'll do a consultation, see if we can help you out, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, she is now a new client that is part of our residential division in Orangeville next week. So, it's funny how it does work. Social media does work.
So that's a case where you really leveraged your existing customer base and then it probably got tagged or passed on or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? We have people who follow our social media not even because they're a client, just because we have, very satisfactory pictures, before and after pictures of something that's super filthy, and then it's super clean after we've cleaned it. And people love those things. During COVID, when COVID first hit, I guess it's, like over a year and a half ago now, we did a COVID campaign. So for 2 weeks when we were in the lockdown, and I don't know if you guys were locked down for 2 weeks as well, but we were locked down for 2 weeks. And for those 2 weeks, and I ran the social media at this time. And during that time, every day I did my own home cleaning tips that I shared on our Facebook or on our Instagram page. And people love them. Like, I would get messages all the time like, did you forget to do the home cleaning tip today, because I'm literally living for it. And people would just follow us for stuff like that. So they're not even a client, but they loved it. They tagged us in it. It got passed on. Hey, check out the tip that I got from Domestic Divas Cleaning Co. today, things like that. So I love social media. I think it's fun, and it definitely works. It gives you that backing, if people are looking for you, but it also gives you new clients.
Do you use an email list?
Yes, so that's another form of marketing that we do. So through Jobber is actually synchronized with MailChimp. They are a working partnership, which is super cool, because I know your friend there just sold MailChimp, so that's super awesome. So we use Jobber, which synchronizes MailChimp. So everybody that's in our Jobber system, which is, thousands and thousands of clients, they all get synchronized to our MailChimp account. And so every month we do a newsletter. So, upcoming for both divisions, the commercial and the residential. On the residential side, for the B2C, for example, we will do, upcoming, the fall is coming. Book your fall deep clean. I'm trying to think what the girls do. The products, we will put links to the product line in there. Things that make sense. COVID right now, so disinfectants is a big thing. Things like that, and then just notes about changing policies. Vaccination laws, and just all of those things. And we send those out. We'll send out little competitions, little contests, just notes. People love our e-blasts. They think that they're absolutely great. We actually get clients from those as well. Prime example, we sent one in September. One of the ladies who entered the competition yesterday on social media actually went back to her mail out that she got in August or September, then emailed and said, listen, we really want to start back up our services now that everybody's back at school and work. Can we get back on track? So things like that happen all the time. And I think consistency is what makes those things work, right? Like you're constantly posting on social media. You're constantly in the back of their mind. We actually do radio as well, which we can talk about that in the next little section. But we don't necessarily do all of our marketing to get clients. We don't put out there, are you looking for a cleaner? Call us. We just kind of are always there in the forefront of people's minds. They hear us on the radio all the time. So if they hear that somebody needs a cleaner, if they do, we're the first one to pop into their head, right?
So I was making notes because you just went through a bunch of stuff. How come you only send your email once a month?
We just find that has been, and I mean, maybe something would work better. We just found that it's worked well. People don't want too much. I know I get annoyed with getting, I follow Hugo Boss. We wear a lot of Hugo Boss, and I get an email from them every 2 or 3 flipping days, and it drives me insane to the point where I unsubscribed. Where most of my wardrobe, or my boyfriend's wardrobe is Hugo Boss. I love their stuff, but I'm sick and tired of getting their emails.
Yeah, I wonder, we all say that. I get this Bruce Lee email selling me Bruce Lee stuff every day, and I've sworn every day that I was going to unsubscribe, but I don't. And I think the conversion rates on sending those, while people say they're annoyed, they actually work. Now that probably works better for e-commerce, a service business like cleaning your house. I would agree that if I got that from Domestic Divas like every day, unless it had some like cool thing, I'd probably be like, okay,
Right.
I've had enough of these divas for a while and do that.
Right.
But the reason I asked also was because not sending once a month, I wonder how that affects your inbox, landing in an inbox versus a promotional tab versus an update tab, in Gmail. So that's really why I was asking, but it seems to be working, and you get, I imagine you get decent open rates.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I love about MailChimp. For anybody who's wondering about using MailChimp, I love MailChimp for that reason, because you can see, what people, um, can you see me?
Now I can.
Oh, sorry, it just went black. I'm so sorry about that. So one thing, yes, about the MailChimp, you can see the opening rates, you can see the clicks, for the social media links, you can see all of those, which I love. So we have had a good response from the once a month. It's not enough, or it's not too much, it's not too little. And it just works with the, happy October or happy November, Merry Christmas, all those things. It just works for the theme of the month. And again, it's not too much, and people don't complain about it. We don't get emails going, take me off your effing email list, so it works. It's just not too annoying. I think it works great.
Do you do any paid ads online?
No.
No paid ads online.
Nope.
How about radio? So let's talk about radio, because you don't hear a lot about radio, although I don't know. How did you get into radio? What made you think that radio, and what stations do you play on?
So, for those of you who have been listening or not, so our primary area is just north of Toronto in Orangeville. So that's where our main office is, because it's, an hour to an hour and a half of all of our served locations in Ontario, right? Like we're kind of all across there. So that's kind of our main area. And though we serve, I'm going to say 10 big areas kind of all around there, we do a lot of community stuff in Orangeville. Obviously, that's where we're based out of. That's where we're known. So, I wish we could, be on the radio and do fundraising and huge community stuff in all of our areas. But just right now, it's just not, we just don't need to. And we're just not we don't have like a head office in each of those areas per se. So we kind of picked Orangeville as our community. It's kind of also where I grew up, in that kind of vicinity. And so we do a lot of community give back in Orangeville. We do a big toy drive, a big food drive. Every year we do all the golf tournaments for fundraisers. Like we do so much stuff. So we figured that was probably the best area to kind of keep like our home base. And in that, they have a radio station. I know the people who work there, the sales team, they're absolutely wonderful. And so I think it was, I'm going to say about a year and a half ago, 2 years maybe, they were doing a big promotional thing where small businesses in the area could donate to this big giveaway. So I said, okay, I would love to take part in it. So we started with that. Then there was another one where it was a big home reno giveaway. So all the home industry, so roofers, siders, vinyl siding, driveway people, like any kind of business that had to do with renovating a home and maintaining a home were a part of this. And the winner, I think it was something like $50,000 worth of prizes that they got. And basically they could do their whole house, and redone. So it went on for about a month where people had to nominate people that deserved all of this. And so we donated, I think it was a $5,000 services. So pre-construction, post-construction, and then maintenance cleaning afterwards. So we started with that and we were a part of it. And we got a big response from the radio. People would message us, hey, just heard you on the radio. Sounds great. We love your stuff. And I thought, screw it. Like, why not? Let's continue it. So
We did. And so now we just get played, I think it's like 10 times a day in between other advertisements and songs. Our sales people are great at the radio where they will switch it up with like the month, for example. So for October, they are doing it where we are, this is brought to you by Domestic Divas Cleaning Co. And it's just Halloween, like public service announcements. So it's like, reminder to be safe this Halloween, check your kids' candy. This message is brought to you by Domestic Divas Cleaning Co. So, again, it's not that come to us, like, call us, we want clients. It's just we're there, if that makes sense, right? Like it's that constant name reminder all the time.
So are you writing any of your ads? Or
No.
So it's basically these type of community service things of which you sponsor and the radio announcer records those spots.
Yeah.
I'm asking specifically because listeners will say, well, if I was listening, I'd say, well, that's great. You do radio. How's that work? Because that's it can be hard because you can't just go online. Although I think now you can just go online and do radio spots, but you got to get somebody to record the radio spot. So you sponsor those things and then they'll do the sponsored by Domestic Divas today.
Yes.
Make sure that your dogs are safe or your siding's attached, something, whatever, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what, though, we do have in between, the special promos and stuff. So we basically, I don't know if it matters or not, but I'll tell you anyways, just so our listeners know. Basically I pay like a monthly package and that covers so many spots, say it's 10 per day. And then what our sales guy, JP, he's absolutely amazing. He has taken care of our stuff forever. He will say to us, okay, we're doing Halloween. Do you guys want to, instead of having your regular stuff, do you want to sponsor these public messages? Blah, 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 blah. And that'll just come off of our monthly package. And then in between those, we do have, are you looking for a luxury commercial and residential cleaning company? Call Domestic Divas Cleaning Co. at blah, 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 blah. So it's just, again, it's right there.
Well, who wrote that?
It's not
I mean, it's just basic. You didn't write that. You didn't write the copy for that. They wrote the copy for that?
Yes. So we have the option to do it. Going to be honest, I'm not a big fan of my own voice. So the lovely people at the radio, they do that. They have a wonderful woman who has the perfect radio voice. So she does all of our stuff.
I see. And then I'm going to ask again though, they write the copy or do you write the copy and give it to them? And then they say, hey, Danielle, does this work?
Yeah. They'll send it to us and then we'll approve it and then they'll put it on air.
And this is the local radio station. How many people are in Orangeville? I was going to look.
I'm going to be honest, probably.
Well, let's look.
I'm going to say, yeah, look it up. Orangeville, Ontario population.
Orangeville, Ontario.
And, like putting back to the small town, it's not Toronto by any means, but the reason we do it is, again, it's kind of our home base. We're very well known in the community and we give back so much. So I think it's just, it kind of just puts a nice little bow on everything that we do within the community and that we're known for. It just kind of gives us that home area that everybody kind of knows. And that's why we choose to do the radio. Again, it's not even really to get the client. It's just to have our name there all the time.
Orange Lawrence founded Orangeville and you have, well, this is an older census, but you have about probably 30,000 people there. So it's a medium small town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously we wouldn't be the company that we are if we just worked in Orangeville, right? So we just chose that one area to kind of be our home base and to just have that community outreach with them. But we do serve, all the other areas, which would cost a hell of a lot more if we were to do radio in all the other areas.
How much is the radio? Is it expensive?
I think we pay $1,600 a month.
Well, that's actually reasonable if you think about it.
Very reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, to have all those spots every day on the local channel.
Mm-hmm. But again, a small town channel, right? So, if we were in Toronto on Z1035, for our Canadian listeners, they know it would probably be 20,000 a month.
Oh, it would be a lot more. And yeah, I wonder, I'm a big radio guy. I grew up on the radio. I was raised on the radio. Who sings that? Who sings that song? Do you know Raised on the Radio?
No, I have no idea.
You have no
That's
idea.
your age.
Raised on the Radio. Oh my God. But I was raised on the radio and I love radio. I wonder how many people, I listen to our hometown radio here in Half Moon Bay. I guess people still listen to the radio, don't they?
Yeah. Like even my mom, on Sundays on the local radio, they play like it's the Sunday oldie channel. So they play all the old, 70s, 80s, 90s kind of old country, old rock, things like that. And my mom loves it. Like she purposely listens to it every Sunday morning. So I think like a lot of people listen to the radio, obviously. I mean, we get a lot of people that go, they'll message us on Instagram, be like, oh, I think we heard you guys on the radio too, or like, oh, your name sounds familiar. We must have heard you on the radio. So people obviously listen.
Jackson Brown. I think Jackson Brown maybe he sung Tender as a Night. He did sing Tender as a Night. Anyway.
You're
hilarious. Somebody's Baby. That's what Jackson Brown. I was trying to remember that. I feel like Jackson Brown never gets as much attention as he really should, although I think he had an incident with his girlfriend or wife, but he really sang a lot of songs. Anyway, so I want you to look, I want you to, on your way home today, look up Jackson Brown and play some of his greatest hits, like Somebody's Baby, Running on Empty, Tender as the Night. See what you think.
All right.
You love the thunder. Yeah.
Sure. I will do that. I'll send you a little video of me jamming out to Jackson Brown.
It's surprising you just sparked my memory on something. So the radio, I think that's a great idea. I think people hear your name all the time, relatively inexpensive if you do the math on an impression basis, and people hear your name and that helps.
Like you just said, Brandon, it is an impression basis. Like one thing that I can honestly say, and I'm glad we did it this way, is we built our reputation and social media channels and everything pre-radio. So having the radio was kind of like a little enhancement, but we didn't solely rely on radio to get our clients, right? Like we still get our clients from our website, social media, word of mouth. So people hear us on the radio, like you said, an impression-based, front of people's minds, it's just kind of there. But if I can kind of say, like maybe it would work for somebody else, I'm not sure, but just my experience with other colleagues, other friends who have businesses, whether they are small businesses or huge businesses, the radio isn't the number one way to go when it comes to marketing or trying to get clients or build your client base, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think it's a branding thing that you can't look at as an acquisition channel. You have to look at, if you view it as an acquisition channel, your metrics you're going to be disappointed potentially because it's going to be hard to track. And unless you put some sort of lead thing in there, right? Like text, whatever the letters of the radio station are, or, and let us know. I think you have to look at it as a branding type thing. So you really you've done direct mail. You just put the mail in the mailbox. Word of mouth is a huge thing. You've leveraged social media now that by running contests that effectively get spread among the people. And then you do radio as on top of that. And that's a lot to keep up with just there, but you don't do any direct to mail anymore. You don't do flyers. You sort of abandon that.
Yeah, we abandoned it. Not that we were like, oh, it doesn't work. It's just, it's not as effective. I mean, I know me, maybe it's because I'm like, newer generation or something, but when I go and check my mail, I go through, get my bills, get my important mail that's, down out to Danielle. Um, and then I throw out the rest of the flyers. I don't look at them. I don't read them, but I also know people who do. I just know that majority of people, considering our mailboxes, there's a recycling bin underneath because people check their mail and throw out the rest. I think that's a clear indication of what people do with mail outs.
Well, if you're going to do direct mail, you're going to have to figure out how to stand out in that,
right.
in that chunk. But
one thing that we do, in regards to that. So at Christmas time, for example, on the residential division, we do a little gift and a Christmas card for every single one of our residential clients, active residential clients. Anybody else who's in our system that we don't say that aren't active at the current time, we mail them a Christmas card, but we don't just send them a generic Christmas card. We put a label on it with their name in an envelope, so again, it's down to that opening something that's for you. If it was just a generic Diva Christmas card that didn't have their name or their address on it wouldn't be as effective.
That makes sense. What type of gift do you send people?
We've changed it up. Over the years, we've done wine where our staff will leave bottles of wine, like branded, our brand Diva wine. We've done branded sugar cookies that are in like cute little bags that have ribbons. That's for our residential side. And then we've done macarons that are, pink and white. Like we've done super cute stuff for our residential clients at Christmas time, candles with our name on them. So it's all branding, but our clients love them. They love coming home, in December and seeing like the cutest little thing. And our Christmas cards, we even get done where they're branded for us. So last year, I think we did a Christmas card, and on the front, it was like Christmas ornaments. And on the ornaments, it had our logo. So like, it's quirky, but it works. It's cute. People love it.
How much do you think you spend per customer for that during that time of year?
$10,
$20,
I'm gonna say about 10 to 15. I think it would probably be a safe number to say that we allot for those clients.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, I wonder, I've been back and forth over the years. I think during the holidays, it's always good to send things, but I wonder if you get washed out with everybody else who's sending things too. So like, we don't send Christmas cards anymore. We send New Year's cards, because then people will get they get all these Christmas cards, and then they're all stacked up, right? I mean, our house has a million Christmas cards on the table somewhere, and you do read them and you do recognize them, but one doesn't stand out against the other unless it's bigger, really, right? Or I don't know, they gave you candy and it sort of all washes out. So we've tried to do Happy New Year, because then it's sort of this, extra gift that keeps it, the holidays still keep on giving. So I don't know that strategy is any different, but I feel like standing out is what you're trying to do well, maybe you're just trying to say thank you and it doesn't matter. I don't know.
Well, it is. It's a part of, thank you for, your business and all of those things. But for us, if we were to just do a Christmas card, I don't think it would be as effective. Not that we get clients by giving out Christmas cards or little gifts. But again, it's just part of our whole luxury feel, full circle, part of that whole experience. But that being said, if we didn't do a little candy or a little something, because the thing is, our staff, when they go, say they were to come and clean your home, when they're done before they're leaving. So we do this from December 1st to 24th. They leave it, on their kitchen table or their island or something like that with a card. So when they come home from work and they see that, it's just like that extra like awesome feeling where if they weren't to get that, I don't think it would matter. If we were to just send them mail them a Christmas card, I don't think it would be as effective at all.
That makes sense. So you actually leave it there.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and for
So,
people who aren't clients or aren't clients anymore, you would mail them a card.
yeah, we mail it to them, which again, we do in the envelope with a stamp, with their name on a label and all of those things, because that's going to add to the opening. You know, it's not just going to be tossed in the garbage because it just looks like a postcard or a flyer. So, you know, it's actually something that they have to open, and then they see and they go, oh, you know, we haven't received a clean from them in, 4 months because of whatever reason. But they're still thinking of us, right? So that's why we do that.
Well, that makes total sense.
Branding and marketing is, I love it. I really, really do. I love thinking of things that we can do just to enhance that experience with our clients that much more. It's just something that I love doing. Anything that we can brand as ours and do for our clients that, on a sophisticated level, not on like a trashy level, but on a sophisticated, very nice level. I think that all of our clients appreciate it because it just adds to that whole full effect and experience.
Well, I agree. Anything that you can do to differentiate yourself and mainly just say thank you. I probably customers aren't thanked enough anymore in today's age because everybody's going after the volume or trying to sell something on e-commerce or the transactions. But, actually for a big company, Amazon does quite a good job. They do a lot of follow-up emails.
Right.
And they keep you part of the process. But yeah, I think if you can thank your customers, I mean, I don't get a thank you from Amazon really. I just get good service. But if you can thank people, you definitely will stand out. Even a little thing like a piece of chocolate.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we found has worked. And it's just been, super great. But I mean, you have to kind of be smart about those things too. I mean, I wouldn't, as a startup, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to spend $10 per client at 700 clients per Christmas. You know what I mean? So it's part of that scaling and growing that you learn these things, right? But even down to our product line, Brandon, like that's a huge marketing and branding, and it sounds silly, but it really does. Again, our staff are using our branded products while they're cleaning. And then our clients can also purchase those for their own use. And it just adds to that full professional brand that we have going on.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that even though when you started or when you start anything, you can still write a handwritten note or do something personal. You don't have to buy them a $10 bottle of wine, or not that $10 bottle of wine, whatever. A $10
Yeah, what you mean.
candle. I don't want people to think you're giving them cheap wine, but I think that you can still do those personal things. I mean, I send a personal video thank you message to people who sign up for our newsletter. Well, what's that worth? It's certainly not a piece of chocolate or a candle, but that personal message. And I'm only saying that so that any listeners out there say, well, I can't afford radio spots. I can't afford paid advertising.
Right.
Really, everything you've said today so far, the flyers weren't expensive. The word of mouth isn't expensive. The word of mouth is a product of doing a good service and doing a good job, right? Good work. And then it sort of all goes from there. And then you get revenue. And once you have the revenue, you can start investing, and it does get stronger. Consistency is key though. You sort of need to continue that. You can't just do it. I mean, you can just do it once, but to get the long-term effect, it's got to be consistent.
Yeah. And, even down to the radio, again, that's why we do it, to have that consistency of our name being, out there all the time. I had a friend who
they wanted to do radio. They were starting up, so they got into radio. It was a great deal. They had a great price come in. They did it for 2 months, and then they came to me and go, well, radio doesn't work. I got no clients out of it. I said, well, I think it's actually proven that with radio, you need to be on the radio for, I think it's something like 6 or 7 months for people to actually hear your name consistently all the time.
Yeah, I think that's hard for business owners to swallow, because as soon as you said that, as soon as you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, of course they say that, Danielle, because this salesperson wants you to lock you in for 7 months. But the truth is, that is the truth, that you do need to be consistent with your message and be seen. So in order to do that, you're going to have to stick with it. But I think what happens is business owners listen to things like this, and then they hope they want this instant sale, and they're in a situation where they either need to make their quarter numbers or whatever their measurements are, and they romanticize that this channel is going to be miraculous. I mean, miraculous. It's too early in the morning for me to say that, but I think if you wanted to do anything that really has an immediate return, you've got to do something like paid ads. But paid ads it legitimately took us spending several $1,000s a month, probably for 10 months to probably 10 months to really dial in even how to tune that ad to hit the right person and to get it to a cost that's manageable or reasonable, or your customer acquisition cost, you can rationalize it because on a contribution margin, you actually make money.
Right. And I think it also has to do with industry. I think that is a big thing. Yes, obviously, consistency and repetition is important, but I do believe that different industries have different results quicker or not. Like services may be a little bit easier. But with services, there's pros and cons to everything, because with services, it may be quicker to say, go on the radio and go, hey, you need a cleaning company, call Domestic Divas Cleaning Co. So cool. But if one person leaves us a bad review on Google, that could screw us. But then at the same time with you guys, I feel like maybe in like a tech company or something like that, like Google reviews in a small town maybe aren't as detrimental as they would be for a service. But, if you guys were on the radio, I don't know if that would be an immediate reaction. If people would immediately be like, oh, you know what, I need to check out this guy's, products through his tech company. So I do think that different industries, and I just used us as an example, but I do believe that different industries have different results when it comes to different kinds of branding and marketing.
Well, yeah. And price points. I mean,
Right.
I'm only using our newsletter as an example for our show today. The price point's high. It's just under $1,000. You're not going to sell that in a instant, hey, get this newsletter. It shows you XYZ, buy it. Whereas, and sometimes your service is an aspirin, not a vitamin, meaning, I need my house cleaned, or my house cleaner, something just happened, or I'm having a party, or we're cleaning up after something. So it's more of an aspirin type thing. So you have to figure out if you're an aspirin or a vitamin, right? In the whole thing, to figure out how you're going to market that, and to set your expectations about what your sales pipeline is going to look like.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, I love that little metaphor of the aspirin or the vitamin. I think that's super cool. I like that.
Well, I think you have to figure out what you are. And if you don't understand what you are, then you could fool yourself to think, everybody thinks that they're an aspirin. Everybody thinks, like, okay, my product solves this. The question is it a pressing need that is a true pressing need, like giving aspirin for a headache? I mean, your house is a mess. You've got 2 kids. You're working every day. You don't have time to clean your house. Cleaning the house could be an aspirin. For a single couple who, don't have animals, You know, it could be a luxury item. So you just have to figure out what you are and how that's going to, because that really is what ultimately can drive your marketing and drive your copy in the marketing itself, your marketing message, your elevator pitch, whatever that is.
Right, right. Yeah, I think, you know, you're 100% right in regards to that, depending on, you know, where you're at and what you are, if you're a demand and stuff like that, right? So, yeah, I think all of that makes complete sense in regards to branding and marketing.
I mean, if you're a plumber and your pipe breaks, you call the plumber, right? And you don't shop around, you figure out which one you remember. That's why plumbers do, you know, will maybe advertise on local radio. It's not because they're waiting, you know, they know the pipe's going to break eventually. They just want to be there when it happens. Real estate agents do that all the time, right? They putting this stuff in my box. I guess they're mailing it. Maybe they're sticking it in the box. I don't know. But every day it feels like, you know, that is the marketing training for real estate agents.
Yeah,
It's that those events only happen so often, and they're not every day. So when you do go to sell your house, who are you going to sell the house to? You're going to remember that person who keeps sending you that thing every week. I just sold 5 things, and they put their picture. The people who stick to that type of marketing, I think in the long run win.
Well, it's consistency. It's annoying AF, but it's consistency, right?
Yeah, it's just because you'll remember, oh my God, oh, David keeps sending me that thing. Let's call him. And so you have to figure out what your sales cycle is. And I don't think enough people, even in businesses that, you know, do millions of dollars, you just don't think about like, okay, because you've worked so hard to just get your business to a few $1,000,000. And even mature businesses that haven't mapped out their whole experience. But once you do that, it can drive your whole marketing strategy and allows you to figure out where you should invest money.
Right. I mean, we know for us, like we have our processes and systems in place. Like we have a social media strategy, you know, even just down to what we post is strategically thought out. But prior to that, we didn't do that. We just posted whatever made sense, you know, just to keep us consistent, and it paid off. But now, you know, we are at that point where having a strategy makes sense. Having radio makes sense because we're scaled, you know, we're up at that level. So yeah, I think it just also just happens with the time and the growth of what you do, and you figure it out, right? Like you said, you figure out where the best thing is to put money. You know, 4 years ago, it wouldn't have made sense for us to do radio because nobody friggin' even knew who we were, except for the people that were using us, right? Where now people that we don't even serve know who we are, right? They just know our people. They see our shirts, even down to our uniform. On the residential side, then this is quirky. You're going to laugh at this. We have our work shirts that are black, like an Under Armour material, very nice V-neck with our logo on the front. And then on the back, we have this slogan that says, "We don't sweat, we sparkle." And it's super cute and quirky. Our staff love it, but it works because, and this is the funniest thing, I left the office a few weeks ago, super late. It was like 9:30, and I had to run to Walmart. I ran to Walmart to go and grab something, and I walked past the cash register, and I saw one of my work shirts. And I almost had to take a second look because I see them in our office. I see them on our staff during work hours. I don't see them outside. And I recognized it right away because it sticks out like a sore thumb. It's still cute. It's still very professional. It's just part of our branding and our uniform. But I noticed it right away. And it was like a double take because I'm thinking, oh my God, like that's my shirt, right? It's like, it was just such a funny experience seeing that outside of business hours.
Yeah, I think branded clothing or bags or whatever they are definitely can help. But also, as you learned, gives you a professional feel. It can make a very small company or a few $100,000, a few $1 million company look big by doing that.
Totally.
Not that you
Totally.
want to
Yeah.
look, not that looking big is always the best thing, but it can look like you're dialed in.
Yeah. Like we know what we're doing, even if we don't.
we're worth the money you're paying us. That's really
Yeah.
what you're trying to convey.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So yeah, I just love talking marketing and branding. And when we said this last week that we were going to be discussing marketing, I thought it would be a good thing. And we could talk for hours about branding and marketing, because there's personal branding, there's, company branding and marketing. And it just kind of depends on what you're going with and your industry.
Yeah, I agree. I think in today's age, you and I were talking about it, I think last week after the show, but paid ads could work for you as you take it to the next level, because you could create a lead magnet that says these 5 things, look for these 5 things when you're looking for a house cleaner. And then you take that, you move them to your email list. And then from there, you put them on a sequence that could be either monthly, or it could be, probably you wouldn't want to wait a month, but when they download that, and you could figure out an onboarding strategy to sell them eventually on your service. And I think these things you have to figure out as you grow so that you can scale. Because in the beginning, you are going to, it's like the products that get sold at the farmer's market every Saturday. I mean, you can trace back companies that always start in that way. And then eventually you just can't keep going to the farmer's market. You got to find a way to scale that business and take it to a next level. And in today's day and age, it really is online. The challenge lately has been that the new iOS 15 update for Apple no longer allows you to track open rates. So you've got to track click-through rates, which means you've got to start driving clicks in your email copy to, if you're trying to figure out who's on your list, which is going to be a big challenge. And then that same Apple update doesn't allow tracking for Facebook or Instagram ads like it used to, or Google ads, I think, for that matter. So now it's a new ball game, I think, that everybody's trying to figure out. And if anybody was just getting into the game, I would highly recommend there's a lot of people out there who say they run digital marketing agencies and that they're good at it. I think you need to talk to 5 references, and you need to really call those references. A lot of the times, I think, Danielle, we look for service providers or whoever marketing people, and we're so excited about the hope of what they are not promising, but suggesting can be delivered, that we just don't do the homework of making those calls. And I think you've got to do your diligence in today's day and age. Otherwise, you wind up wasting a lot of money.
Yeah. And you're so right about that. I mean, we've thought about it, and, maybe we have just been lucky. Like we've built a multi-million-dollar company without doing paid ads. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily a bad thing. We've just lucked out and not had to do them, right? Like we've had such great success in, our reputation, and creating a great reputation across a bunch of different towns, cities, and communities. Like, in Ontario, it's not just per se Orangeville, but like every single one of them, on our social media, on all like our emails and stuff like that. Because even just as basic as, if somebody fills out our thing on our website, our intake form on our website, and then it automatically comes into Jobber. Once they are in Jobber, they are opting in to our mail list, right? Our email list. So they're going to get our stuff. So even if they come into Jobber, they decide that, we can't afford, or we don't want your services, they're still going to get those until they unsubscribe. And we've gotten clients that have been on that. Then they've received 3-4 of our emails and then decided that they're going to come in. So, mini lead generation, I guess, really, because they're coming in for some information and they're automatically in there. But, back to the paid advertisements and stuff like that. We've really lucked out where we haven't had to spend thousands and thousands on doing that. But then I also look back and go, what if we still did the same amount of hard work that we did 5 years ago and got into paid ads? Would we be triple the size? Would we be a $20 million company instead of, what we are now? And, so you really have to figure it out. I mean, you know me, I'm not a tech person. I've told you this from day one. I don't understand tech. I'm not a techie person. So I'm a very basic person when it comes to that. And ultimately, I'm the person that has to make the call on what we're going to spend our money on within marketing and stuff like that. So that has never been top of my mind for marketing. But I mean, there's so many options, right? Like you said, you have to figure out what the best thing to do is. Obviously, it works for many companies. I know my mom, she's a mortgage broker, and she uses lead generations all the time because it's such a competitive market. So I just think it just depends on you and what you're doing and what you're using.
Yeah, I agree. You're probably getting close to your photo shoot location, aren't
Yeah,
you?
I still have 13 minutes. We're good.
I still have 13 minutes. Well, that's good. Well, I'm excited. This has been a great conversation about marketing and taking us through really from the beginning when you started to the end and talking about some different mediums. I think that radio is definitely interesting. I think your flyer thing has been tried and true forever. And I think that people underestimate the power of that. I know people hate it. I used to do it when I started my first social media company or media company. I would go to all the boat ramps and put flyers on every single car in the boat ramp because that was the customer. They were
Yeah,
obviously fishing. If there was a trailer hooked up to that car, I was putting
yeah,
a flyer on it. And we put flyers, we put stickers. Some people didn't like it. Some people get mad at that. I don't know why I don't want to say get mad. I just get so annoyed when I go into a store and come out with a flyer. The fact of the matter is you look at the flyer and if it's applicable, you could use it. So
yeah.
it does work. I think people, and it did work. I did that for several probably years of driving around
Mhm.
and it was boring and it
Yeah,
sucked, but it worked because you figure out where your customer is and you do that. I think, obviously with you putting it in a person's mailbox, they obviously have a home and it makes sense. If you're listening and you don't have that obvious of where your customer is, and you can do what I did, which is drive to the boat ramp, find a boat or find a car or truck that has a boat trailer and hook it up. The other things that I used to do too is I would go on to the VHF radio and advertise, so to speak. I would call back then it was called Worldwide Angler, and I'd say, "Are there any Worldwide Angler people out there?" And that was a lot of VHF radios that had the boat. I'm just putting this out there as an example for people that you can get creative
yeah,
to get your message out there. I was just thinking, I know a lady who has something for hair salons that she's selling. And I think people overcomplicate it. I'm not going to name her because I'm not picking on her. I think it's just an example of where you're so excited about your product and getting it out there and scaling. She could just drive around to every hair salon and slip that flyer underneath the door. I mean,
hmm
these are little things that you can do that no, they're not going to scale possibly. But even then, I've seen conferences where companies have hired people to either stand outside with signs, but talking about flyers is just canvass the damn place, canvass the parking lot of the people who are
yeah.
going to the conference with flyers. I mean, it can work.
And it's annoying and you hate it, but it's like that old age saying of bad publicity, or there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? It kind of ties into that because you're annoyed, you're going, oh, these stupid flyers, but you remember them. It's so annoying. It's like the repetitive emails and stuff. Like, I'm not gonna not buy Hugo Boss because I'm annoyed with how many flipping emails I get, right? It's just part of that. And it's true. Like you said, they canvas the whole thing, but you it's in your head. It's part of that. And one thing that kind of sticks in my head now, a friend of mine owns a plumbing company, and they call it Plums Up. And, you know, they service Orangeville, and they have scaled huge. They are also a multi-million-dollar company. And they have this little jingle on the radio that it's like thumbs up for Plums Up or something cute and quirky. And everybody remembers it. So back to, you know, they are not something that is on a repetitive weekly contract or bi-weekly contract like us, but they are the first one people call, because there's like 6 other plumbing companies in Orangeville. Do you think I know any of them? No, but I know Plums Up because I freaking hear their stupid jingle every, 10 minutes on the radio.
Yeah, I think jingles, we're not going to get time to talk about it today, but sounds are actually a really, jingles and sounds. I mean, I was a BMW driver, and the BMW has a very clear chime every time you get in. Anybody, even if you're not an Apple user, you know that deep bass sound, to maybe not the best way to describe it, when a Mac turns on, right?
Yeah.
You know the jingle. You can still think of the jingles of things when you were a kid. You can remember them. You just remembered a plumber of all things that you hear.
I know.
I'm just saying that's how powerful these things are that we overlook in many ways. And, I think there's this belief that you say, oh, well, that's annoying. That's how we feel. But if you really want to be in marketing and you really want to get an ROI out of marketing, you need to just focus on the numbers. The reason Hugo Boss sends you an email every single day is because they know it works. It's not because they're trying not to annoy you. The numbers work. Yes. Maybe people unsubscribe every day, or, there's some unsubscribe rate, but there's just as many people, probably more, subscribing, and there's just as many people buying. And I think the one thing that I would say is, you got to know your marketing math, and some things you won't be able to track. Like, you in the radio, you've decided that that's a branding exercise, and you've said, I'm going to spend $1,600 a month. And I know that it is what it is. I hope I get somebody, but I'm not going to track it. On your other things, you do have math that you do. Certainly on fundraisers and things like that, you have a budget and some belief that there's going to be an ROI, but you have to just look at the numbers. I think that, I only send one email. I have been only sending one email a week to our listeners, and I probably should send more. I mean, the fact is, sure, you get some unsubscribes and they're painful, and it's amazing how each unsubscribe really does
takes a rip out of your heart.
Well, because you also know, we just purged our list this week for the last time in a while until we figure out the new iOS, but we purged 2,000 people that hadn't engaged with our email in 9 months. So if they did not engage with an email, or we couldn't track it, we fired them. And we do send out a sequence. It's a 3-day or 4-day sequence that says, hey, we see that we don't believe that you've opened anything. You may have, if you want to stay on the list, click here. If not, thanks so much. Bye. And I think that'll be the last time we do that. But for a while, because of this, I won't be able to track that stuff. But I think that, sending more frequent emails, it works. I mean, I get an email from a bunch of people every single day, and I could say, and as much as I say that I'm going to unsubscribe, I don't, because they do deliver some value that I want to hear. So they're front of mind.
So then it just sits in your email inbox until you have time to read your 87,000 emails.
That's exactly right. But you know what? I don't even have to read this one dude's. This guy right here, I had him on the show, Hall Martin. He sends me an email all the time about fundraising, startup fundraising. I haven't read his emails. The fact is, truthfully, I have not opened his emails in probably 3 months, but I see his name in my inbox. And, you know, that is branding. Just that is branding. So
Yeah.
I think it works. I like email. I think text messaging will eventually happen there. And I like paid ads if you can make them work.
Yeah. Now, before we get off, I just wanted to ask one question that's sticking in my brain after you said about you went to the boat launch and put a sticker or a flyer in everybody that had a boat. Now, this is a very brutally honest or whatever blunt question. Was that just down to the fact that you knew people who had boats had a little bit more money, or what was your tactic behind that? When you say that it was your target audience, what was your strategy behind that?
Well, the truth is saltwater anglers do spend more in general than freshwater anglers. And I knew that, but that wasn't why. I was just trying to reach fishermen. So you can't go, you know, you certainly could go to the Walmart parking lot and canvas everybody and say, well, these people are fishermen. I'm not, what should I say? I'm just segmenting markets here. I'm not making commentary when people go to Walmart. It could be Target. It could be, in today's society, Danielle, you gotta,
I hear you. You don't want to offend anybody, right?
Yeah, apparently you don't want to offend anybody, but I still
shop at Walmart for all of our listeners. I shop at Walmart.
I still think that being offended is on the person that is offended, not on the person doing it. But anyway, that's another discussion. I just find it interesting that you have to preface these things these days.
I know.
But anyway, to be clear, I'm segmenting markets, and you could do that for Walmart, but it was easier for me to say, hey, this person's at a boat ramp. They clearly have a boat. They value fishing, because anybody who spends, you don't need to spend in those boats that fished on the Chesapeake, but that still do Chesapeake Bay. You know, these are bigger boats. These are people who are spending, you know, 30, 40, 50, $250,000 on a recreational activity boat. So I knew that they, one, were fishermen. Two is I knew that if anybody who buys something that expensive hooks it up to their truck that bought a truck for $80,000 to tow the boat, then they obviously value their time out there and they want to catch fish. So I knew that if I could, you know, on the flyer to say, you know, our marketing was pretty simple. If you want to catch more fish, tune in to worldwideangler.com. I mean,
cool.
Easy message, right? So I was just trying to, you know, do our target market in a verifiable target market way with people who they were our avatar. They were going to have a computer. You know, I shied away from your comment because I knew they were rich. It's not that they were rich, but they are a demographic that says they probably had, you know, they're going to have technology. They're going to be on the internet. They're going to want to tune into this thing. So that was really it.
And I mean, I that's why I said it was very blunt. And I mean, I didn't mean that in any kind of derogatory way. It was more just like, even myself, you know, when we were doing the flyers for the cleaning company, going to a lower income or say housing complex was not going to give us, and there obviously there's different kind of ways of life and people that are from different strains of life, but that's not going to be, like you said, that was not going to be our avatar, right? Like we were not going to get the results that we wanted if we went to, you know, a low income housing facility where we had people that had 3-4 homes that needed those homes to be cleaned, right? So we just had to hone in on our target audience.
Yeah, I think you got to figure out exactly who your avatar is. Maybe you have 3 of them, but you got to have that. And I think that word's overused. Just figure out who your thinking customer is. Know your customer, and then go find out where they are. And wherever they are, do some sort of advertising that can be profitable for you long term. And I think that's what you got to figure out. I think it all starts with, you know, and I'll just say, you can't do any of this until you understand your value proposition. You have an elevator pitch so that you can then write the copy for the ads. I think, we talked about advertising today, and you shared a lot of stuff, which I'm grateful for, about domestic divas and how you started and then where you are today. I think the thing that is overlooked, that's still a component, is you've got to get your copy right. I actually, I wrote yesterday, I had been working on it a while in my head, but I wrote a 1,700 word long form sales letter. And, that didn't just pop into my head. If I would have paid someone to write that, that's probably, for a real good copywriter, maybe it's a few $1,000s easily to get that, but you've got to figure out what your copy is going to be. And in order to write that copy, you got to figure out who you're targeting. And then you got to figure out what your elevator pitch is, because your elevator pitch ultimately drives all the copy on the flyer or anywhere else.
Right. 100%. And, from everything that we've talked about today, that is ultimately what you have to do, and figure it out as you go, no matter what industry or what business, or if you're a startup or a multi-million-dollar company, that ultimately is what it is.
I think that's a good place to end today before you go
and do some more branding.
You go do some domestic diva Danielle Brandon. Do they have a hairstylist there for you and everything?
Yeah.
I mean,
So
your hair looks good. I'm not commenting on that. I'm just asking.
Yeah, so hair, makeup, and that's why I'm just wearing a hoodie, because I have to change when I get there. So yeah, and this is actually not necessarily for domestic divas. This is actually just my own professional branding. So, and that's also important. And maybe I like how we're doing these part 1 and part 2s of these podcasts, where we're doing, some questions about my business, questions about yours, and then just general information. And maybe next time we can talk about either your what you do for branding, on elaborate a little bit more, or we could do even the importance of personal branding.
Yeah, well, maybe we can cover both. I'm happy to take people through our entire, how we've set up, how we look at it, and how we've set up the funnel. And then, at least for the newsletter, I want to stay to B2C in general. I think B2B, which you and I could talk about a little bit next time, it's just it's a harder sale. It's a longer sales cycle, and it still can leverage the same types of channels, but it's definitely a much different sale, likely a longer sales cycle,
right,
with some longer term investing. So we definitely cover that next time. But yeah, I think personal or professional branding, I'm going to write down personal branding, because you see a lot of the things that founders do is even the most famous ones, there is a personal brand behind the brand, because originally it is the personal brand. I mean, let's just be honest. In the beginning, it was Danielle, the house cleaning lady does a great job. It wasn't a brand.
right.
And you do have to transition. You have to leverage your personal brand, turn it into the bigger brand. And I think there's mistakes people make. I've made the mistake, is if you would have instantly gone to Domestic Diva and just tried to build that brand, it would have been much harder than people tagging your personal Facebook, having a personal connection, being like, okay, this lady lives in Orangeville. I can see pictures of her, I don't know, in places that they can recall and recognize. That's a much different thing than had you tried to get a brand. But I think that founders these days, business owners, and maybe I don't think it's these days. I think it's always been true. It becomes easier and more prevalent in today's day in the internet to do that personal branding. What I found was that while I had a brand before, that I wanted to be a brand and not rely on me, because if it relies on you, it can't scale. There's 100 things wrong or potential issues with that. You still may want to do something on your own, and having a personal brand and the voice can really help with that. For me, it was, I kept an email list, and that email list, when it goes with you, wherever you go is different. I see a bunch of founders, actually, we don't use, although I like Ben Chestnut from MailChimp, and I have used MailChimp and do use MailChimp for some things. Our main mailing list for this podcast and for the newsletter, we use ConvertKit, and Nathan Barry has done a good job on keeping, the founder of ConvertKit has done a good job on keeping his personal brand as well, separate from the ConvertKit brand. But it's one of these things where you sort of have to be the personal brand, then you have to transition that into your company brand, and then you start to separate your personal brand again, which is really what you're doing after 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Or moving on 6 years. How many years is it now?
Yeah, it'll be just almost 6 years. Yeah.
6 years. You know, in the beginning, like I said, it was Danielle, and it became Domestic Divas. And now you're saying, okay, Domestic Divas has its own brand, it has its own life, and I want to do some things on my own, like not on your own, but outside that preserve or promote your Danielle Jenkins brand.
And to add to that and to kind of end it so people can think about, whether they are a startup and moving into the future, or if they are already, people don't call the company and go, hey, can I please speak to Danielle? People don't even know who Danielle is. I don't brand myself through the company anymore, right? Like, people actually know my staff. I'm kind of like a ghost, I do the stuff on the backside, or I talk to, about the company, but I don't necessarily sit there and take all the phone calls and answer all the emails personally and things like that. And so people don't call looking for Danielle. It's just Divas, right? Like, as a whole, we have created a great reputation, and not just Danielle, right? But it is a tough transition, and maybe we can add that to our point for another conversation, is transitioning from doing it yourself and having that brand of yourself as Danielle the cleaner, to then moving on to that brand of a corporation or an organization, and having to get people to trust that they're going to do the same job that they're used to, that Danielle did. And that's a big conversation that we can have, because I struggled a lot with that. And I actually lost some clients over it. So, that's something that we can talk about next time.
Yeah. And for all our listeners, next week, we are actually going to be playing a recorded version that Danielle and I recorded 3 weeks ago on surviving COVID and how we did that with our business, because I will be working and not in the studio to be able to record. So we're going to run that next week. And then the following week, we'll come back with part 2 of this on marketing in your business.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I know we're going to have to cut this short. And I know usually we talk for a little bit after, but I am going to have to run in and get glammed. So yeah, it was a great talk today. I really enjoy talking about marketing, because there's just so many unknown things. And it's one of those things that you just kind of have to figure out as you go, kind of like everything else.
Yeah, that's the truth. We'll have a good photo shoot. And if you listen to our podcast I know you sometimes listen to our shows on the way home. I'm not sure that you caught the stinger from last week, but you should check that stinger out. The stinger is all the way. The stinger. I put stingers now in the podcast, just like the movies, where they go through all the credits and there's a stinger.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. I'll listen to it.
Easter egg. All right. Have fun on your shoot. I'm looking forward to seeing these Danielle Jenkins photos.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody.
See you.
Thanks, Brandon. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.